well, I have been working with corporate clients that like want to automate some sort of motion or create tools that then they can hand off to clients. And so I've been doing a few of those, and those are like really challenging, especially when it comes to like what I can deliver versus expectations and kind of the conversation back and forth on that. Because, this started as like a learning opportunity for myself, and that's what kind of keeps me going. But, at some point it becomes, you need to, quit learning and start executing, and like start like learning in a direction in which you can accomplish, what clients come to you for.
The Side Hustler's Perspective podcast is fuel for your mind and creative grind. Each week, we break down the art of healthy hustling, getting out of your own way, and growing your creative business. What's going on, fam? We got Kiel Mutschelknaus, aka Kiel Danger. Whatever. He has some funny names that he has said that has been mispronounced. I'll let him share that with you. It's a good chuckle, but Keel, it's so good to have you. How you been, my dude?
Yeah, I've been doing great. Thanks so much for having me, Scotty. It's a little unreal having been a listener for a few years now. So yeah, thanks so much for inviting me to have a chat.
Too kind. I know for the last couple of months, I'm like, hey, let's do like an Instagram live. Let's do this, because we had a little brief Clubhouse session, but it has just been an absurdly insane summer. And yeah, I'm like, okay, podcast, let's just do this. I can always make this work. This is always here. This isn't going anywhere. This is a non-negotiable. So it's really, really dope to have you here. I appreciate it. I've been a fan of your work for a hot minute now. I'd easily say about 1 to 2 years. I started finding your work on my Instagram feed and seeing all this crazy, insane type animation. And then I start digging deeper. I'm like, dude, you're a wickedly talented designer and illustrator as well. And I want to get into some questions why I don't see that, but like, damn, dude, I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, niching down, I guess, that's a really great point. My road to where I'm currently at has been a little windy in terms of the avenues I've explored. I did start off, primarily illustration. I kind of thought that was graphic design was just a reason to put a drawing on something. But then, that snowballed to motion and to coding and to 3D and to kind of exploring all of those worlds and then to typography and that world.
Well, let's nerd out for a second. Give me a brief Wikipedia page for someone who may not know who you are or what you do. Just give them that brief Wikipedia page about yourself.
Yeah, born and raised in South Dakota. I went to a small liberal arts college in South Dakota, got a BA in art and a math minor. And then spent a couple years in advertising after I graduated, a small little agency, which was pretty amazing. Great experience. And then I went to grad school at Cranbrook Academy of Art in Detroit, Michigan. Outside of Detroit, Michigan. And then after I got my MFA there in 2D design, came over to the East Coast, started teaching at Maryland Institute College of Art in the graphic design department. And at that time really started jumping more into motion, into 3D design, and then coding as well, and kind of became self-taught in that world. And now when I teach at MICA, focusing on motion graphics, 3D stuff, some like kind of newer technology stuff. And then on the side, over the past few years, I've spent a lot of time developing a space type generator. That was maybe a long Wikipedia entry. Sorry about that.
No, and I want to get to that space type Wikipedia space type generator here in a little bit that you mentioned this Wikipedia page summary, but man, there's so many different nuggets I'm already like seeing that I could just take this episode in a million different directions. The power of niching down, taking initiative, self-teaching yourself, hiring yourself for the work you want to be known for. But I think the coolest thing out of all of this, like you've crushed it for massive clients with your editorial work. But at the end of the day, this is all still a side hustle. Like I know you've been on sabbatical, but you're a teacher, and you still build things on the side and take initiative. Can you speak a little bit towards that? Like, why isn't just having a good, safe day job enough for you?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I first got my job at MICA, I thought like, this is it. This is the pinnacle. This is what I've done, and I am happy. I've been happy there, and through teaching and like through talking through lots of these processes, and as I mentioned, you know, like my my classes kind of focus around kind of really tech heavy stuff, you know, lots of tools and everything. And I think
Like
through
coding and
talking,
stuff, or like what are your main areas that you teach?
I do lots of motion graphics, and then we also do cinema 4D, so like 3D
Okay.
and 4D graphics, you know, so those are primarily what I do some kind of basic graphic design branding stuff as well. But I think through talking through those processes and, you know, like giving these tutorials, working through some of these issues with students and working through some of the tools, you know, like you really get to know it once you're saying it out loud and talking about it. And from there, you know, it's like kind of me showing it and then being like, yeah, but like, what if we also did this? And what if we also did this? And, you know, and could we do this? And like getting to know these like kind of processes really intimately, I think has really helped to kind of expand my own mind at the possibilities. And even space type generator, you know, it like has its core and its genesis in like a demo I was doing in school with After Effects. And from there, it was then like using expressions, which are like chunks of code you can put in After Effects, and doing scripting. And then it was like taking that and bringing it out into its own coded environment. So yeah, the teaching, you know, has
You're
actually kind of
nerdy and
really helped
weird in
me.
all the right ways.
Thank you.
Like we all got our
Thank you.
weird quirks and things that we love. And it's just dope to see it like, hey, not only can I teach it, but the more you teach everything, teach what you know, the more you understand it better. And the more it opens it all up like a playground, a sandbox for you with this space type. Let's pull that up real quick. And then I'm going to hit you with just like a freaking barrage of questions. Where did I go with that? Let me go back to your link tree, space type generator, share my screen. So yeah, if you're watching the video right now, which I highly recommend it. So I can come over here and just type in like, you're not pizza. And then
Oh yeah, you know what? There's no quotes.
no, I will figure it out. I was messing with this earlier, and you can just mess with
Good.
all kinds of different things. Oh, let me go with that jellyfish. I was liking that one. Like talk a little bit about just nerd out over this. Explain what the hell I'm even doing. This is just all experimentation here.
All right, I'm like so ready to nerd out, and apologies for like the performance here. Looking back at this, I'm thinking like, oh, I need to fix so many things, but that's kind of been the story of space type since the beginning.
What is space type generator? What is it? Where does the idea come from? Okay. Why should people care? Yeah, give me the elevator pitch for this.
Okay. It started with me like teaching myself coding, and you know, so I started in processing, which is a Java-based visual programming language. What we're looking at now is P5.js. This is like the JavaScript library that's meant to replicate the functionality of processing. But it was like, you know, me learning about, you know, how to code. And then, as I mentioned before, you know, like I was working with students, asking them, or, you know, like teaching these things, kind of talking about it over and over again. And quickly, like, kind of became apparent that, you know, I could push this a little bit more. So some of the earlier ones here, like cylinders, you know, me just drawing letters in space, you know, like they're all like kind of Illustrator paths, you know, or the equivalent of that. So they're all like vertexes and Bezier vertexes maneuvered around in 3D space, and then with a stroke applied to it. And so that's how you can get like some of this skewing. So it's like a variable typeface, but it's like but it's like a lo-fi version. So it's not a real typeface. You know, those are just like individual strokes. And that's what allows you to get real thin, real thick strokes, adjust the X height, the width, etc. Have that change depending from letter to letter. And some of the later ones, you know, if you go into the upper right, you know, under the select, you know, some of the later ones I've been working with utilize real typefaces. But some of these earlier ones, yeah, this one as well uses what I call lo-fi mono, which is a lo-fi variable typeface that I've created. And some of them, like, yeah, they run like garbage. You know, they're very bad. But you know, there's lots of potential here, and I'm always telling myself I'm going to revisit some of these and you know,
what is
streamline.
This for? Why did you build this? Because man, like on your Instagram too, you're always like sharing, hey, just went and made some updates, or here's the next little cool thing I made. Like, dude, you are the master of motion with things.
Yeah, thanks. You know, like I've really been into the idea of tools. You know, as I mentioned, like for me, tools have always been like really important part of how I make and why I make. You know, I don't really feel so much like a artist, so I rely on my tools a lot to inform what my visuals will look like, and like possibilities and variations within the code. So
Dude,
for me, like part of the fun is the interaction with it. So like there's so many levels of like documentation you can have with these sort of tools. It's like the development of the tools, what sort of sliders you add to what sort of variables, and what sort of functionality you can do, and then making motion out of those. And there's so much fun in the actual tinkering and experimenting and playing with it that has become like a really integral part of Space Type Generator. There's a fair amount that I don't post online just because, some of them, as you've seen, run pretty rough. But so for me, like, yeah, that interaction is so fun, and seeing designers, like really try and make it their own, like that's part of the development, is like me seeing what other people do with it, them responding to presets, sliders, doing things I wouldn't have thought of, which is like mind blowing, when I see something, I was like, oh yeah, you could do that. That becomes like really rewarding to me.
So what has this led to in terms of opportunity, like taking initiative and making things like the Space Type Generator? What doors has that opened in a sense for you? Because again, you crush it with big editorial based clients, but like how did you get from teaching to like making these side hustle projects to where you are today with landing these big clients?
Yeah, I mean, well, I think some of the stuff I've been posting on Instagram, because like I said, like once I started developing these tools, sharing these tools, like, my ability to create content or to like explore things really exploded. And I think a lot of those Instagram posts ended up on art directors' mood boards or in their Pinterest or in their folders. Cause I think that's how I
just by posting through Instagram, or what else were you leveraging? I know you have Behance as well.
Yeah, I mean, my Behance is a little rusty, but I know that's saved a few places. I mean, I think it's ill-advised, but I think my entire lemonade stand is built in Instagram. I know I need to make more lemonade stands. I know I need to diversify, but
I love that concept of like my main lemonade stand. I like that.
I need more lemonade stands. I need to explore more avenues, but yeah, I think I ended up on like some art director feeds, some creative director feeds. And I think, things got saved to mood boards. And then they would reach out, and they needed a specific thing done, or somebody dropped my name somewhere. So, I mean, it's really happened organically. And I mean, luck, I think, right time, right place, right feed, I think that's what led people to my DMs, which led people to emails, which led to calls and stuff like that. And I still see, like they'll reach out to me, they'll contact me, and they'll say like, hey, we're thinking about doing this thing. And then I'll look at their pitch deck, and like there will be a slide of Space Type Generator stuff, which is like so exciting to me to like see that, it's finding its way.
That's a massive thing. You just making this little hobby ends up on their mood boards and stuff that they're now pitching you to like, hey, we want this. Like, that's absurd. When did you have that light bulb moment? Like, aha, teaching is dope, but this isn't the pinnacle. Like there's a whole nother level that Keel can tap into.
Yeah. I got an email when I was teaching a class about my first New York Times piece that was printed, and they like had a clear idea of what sort of visuals they wanted. I think they sent me the Instagram post and they're like, can we do this? But
was that your first like big client hit you up?
Well, yeah, I think I did an Apple illustration, but that was like kind of more 3D graphics. And that wasn't really STG stuff. I mean, I've had lots of like really wonderful clients, and I've loved all of them. But for me, like, that New York Times section, I actually have it way back there.
No big deal, dude. Like when that first hit up, like, nerdy. Hey, we want this.
Yeah.
Like, what's that kind of feeling? Like, wow. I mean, that was just for me.
Yeah, I was ecstatic. I mean, I was really excited. And
can I ask what you charge for something like that, if you're able to talk about it?
Yeah, well, New York Times, I mean, they've got like, I wanted to do it, and so they can pay a fair amount lower. I can't remember what it was for like the static and the motion and the print. I think it was only like $750 or something. And then the ones I do for InTech, can I say this? They're $500 for a motion one. And then you like deliver an MP4 and then a GIF that also can fit under 2 megabytes or something, which is always for me the challenge. But like if you do them right, like if your timing is right, you can be pretty good. And that's what's so appealing about some of this editorial stuff is how fast it is. Like they will maybe email the day before, at like 3 p.m. and then by the end of the day, so like I'll maybe spend an hour throwing out 3 concepts. They look at them that evening, they share some feedback, and then I wake up early in the morning to get them off by like
you don't
11
get like a rush fee you can tack on. Do they come with you
No.
with the budget in this editorial space with these bigger, like, hey, we got the clout. We got the clout.
Yeah,
we know we can find someone. But for you, it's like,
do.
Here's the title. Here's the work I get to say for something. What's the range then that you've been? So like 500, what's like the top that you've been able to do?
For like one of these editorials, I think I've done like, up to 1,000. And if maybe, up to 1,000 if there's like a motion and then maybe a couple spots or a couple variations on the motion that are more static or more grounded. I mean, usually with editorial stuff, like they must have like a list. And I do not envy these art directors that like, if I say no, they got to scramble the next person. If they say no, they got to scramble the next person. And then your time crunch, is like insane. So, they come with that. And like, for me, it's like, I get to put that logo, on the resume. I get some content, I get like maybe a little portfolio piece to throw up.
You have to like
somewhere.
sign an NDA or put something in the agreement, like, hey, I get to share this on.
Yeah.
Or do you have to ask for that? Because I know in the past at NDAs, they're like, no, we don't want you to share this. I'm like, hey, actually, I would like to negotiate and ask for this.
Yeah. These editorial ones, they're putting your name like right under the image. And that's great. And so
they allow you to share it too.
Illustrators. Yeah. I mean, illustrators like that with these motion pieces. The places I've worked with, like they've just shared my name right there. So it's like they're kind of throwing that plug out there anywhere. So then I share it. For me, it's like the timing is like really exciting and really rewarding. And I think there's like a brand new kind of space here for illustration that's motion based that, it exists, in a looping environment. I see lots of
NFT culture, man. That's like
motion
illustration based. Yeah. I saw you even have a foundation account started.
Yeah, I do. I mean, the NFT space, man, I've got so many mixed feelings about it and I kind of don't know where it'll go. I mean, it feels like it's a future that kind of snuck up on us and I don't know if that future is actually here
hard. Yet. I feel like it's so early in the game and there's a bubble, but at the same time as the energy footprint gets better and better, Ethereum, gets to Ethereum 2.0 with staking. Oh my God, I could nerd out, but like just the carbon footprint, but also the opportunity that it comes and putting the power back in the artist's hands instead of getting middleman.
Yeah.
Like, I think that's where it's coming, and people like Gary V leading the forefront. I'm like, oh my gosh, Kiel's work is perfect for this.
Yeah. I mean, we need like a real metaverse, like we need a place where these can be displayed that, like don't require somebody to get like a digital frame in their house. I mean, those are great and everything, but like a real metaverse, right? Where
like Decentraland, like I don't know if you've heard about all of this world, like literally virtual worlds that people can buy land on. I'm like, this is nuts. This is nuts, man. It's like we're living in an episode of Black Mirror. Just
I'm into it. I'm ready for it.
Down, right? I love this cutting edge technology and I love people like you who are just like pushing it. I feel like you're on the cusp of going deep into that world. But speaking of niching down, like I mentioned, dude, you're an insanely talented designer. I saw some of your branding work. I've seen your illustration work, your type wizardry that you do too. Like what made you niche down in the lane of becoming the master of motion in a sense? Like, was it just that you saw the trend, not necessarily a trend, the need for more motion based, the move to like more people like really wanting to adopt and bring motion into their work? Or were you just like, this stuff's boring, this is more exciting? Like what set that spark and that pulse and that compass to go and niche down in this lane? Because if you're on your account, you don't show any like of your illustration and any work that I see on your website. Like you want to be known as this guy versus the guy who does all these things very, very well.
Yeah, a couple of things there. I mean, like that
was a long-winded question, dude.
No way. I mean, there's so many great points in there. I show the work I want, and I know I've heard you talk about this as well. It's like that's kind of what I'm into now, is like, I want more of this motion work, this coding work. It's challenging. It's super rewarding. I'm learning new stuff like every week, daily, like with new clients and new challenges. So I'm showing the work I want. But that's not to say I still don't do those illustration works.
How
Like
would you describe that in a perfect, concise sentence? This is the type of work I want, just so someone can see like, wow, that's such a bold manifesting statement that they're chucking into the universe. What's that look like to you? This is the work I want.
Yeah, I want motion generative coding work. I like the idea of loops and of these things existing in like a perpetual state of motion. For me, that's, like the type of work I want is automating some of this motion and exploring, like the flexibility we have when we can edit our own tools, have our own say over our tools and what we make with, that's what I'm interested in. Yeah.
Okay. It's easy for me to just say, hey, it's hard to see results if you don't know what you want and speak it into existence. Like that's such a blanket statement, and there's so many elements that it takes to get to knowing what you want. How long in this journey that you've been on, how many years did it take you to be like, to say that concise statement of what you want right there?
Man, a while. I was well, you saw that illustration work. I spent a long time thinking like, this is what I'm doing, this is me, this is like my work. And so I was doing illustration work, and it's like really kind of challenging for myself to explore that, because if that would have taken off, then that's what I would be doing, but that didn't like hit as hard as I wanted it to, as much as my ambitions had hoped for. That illustration work, which I still think is rewarding. I get really excited by it, but for me that hasn't hit as much as this motion stuff. So like, I don't know, like what does that mean about me as a designer, that like I do whatever was successful? I don't know. For me, that's a challenging thing to.
Well, what made you pivot in the first place to pursue animation? Like clearly there was a gut check of like, this is something that interests me.
Yeah, motion has always been exciting. Like when I first opened After Effects and I saw like how well it talked with Illustrator. I'm like a vector junkie from way back. Like that's like where I cut my teeth, and I can do.
That's what got me into this whole world. Anyway,
yeah,
I wouldn't be here podcasting had I not like discovered Adobe Illustrator my freshman year of college, because I was always designing logos off the top of my head in Microsoft Paint growing up, not knowing this was graphic design.
Yeah. Bezier curves just make sense. So yeah, so I loved how like well those talk together, and like if you can make something that moves, how much more rewarding is that than something that's static? So for me, like the appeal of motion was so exciting, and I've always had a little bit of a mind for math. I studied math a little bit in undergrad. So then like when I heard about processing, which was like this like combination of motion software and math and coding, I'd always wanted to like explore coding, and that was such a perfect playground for me. And so those, they all kind of like developed together, and it was that, and then teaching, and then like finding a niche within my own department at MICA where I would be teaching motion software and 3D software, and being able to explore those topics and talk through them and tackle them and have this great discourse with students and see what they wanted to do.
So when were you like, I want to just go all in? I'm assuming that you fell in love with motion before the traction started to gain.
Yeah, well, like I kind of want to like tell you the date that I knew, and it was when I created my first like type tool in processing. Like that was
because I don't want people to think like I fell in love with motion and it just took off for me immediately. Like I don't want people to think that's, I only chased this because it did well. And I'm like, I feel like there's more layers to peel of the onion.
Well, I was playing with After Effects, and I've had clients and did motion graphic work, explainer videos. I work with a great organization called Art of Ed that creates not explainer videos. They create educational videos for students about different art topics. So I've been playing around with After Effects for a long time. But for me, like when it really became its own thing, where I kind of thought like, okay, here's motion graphics I've been doing client work with, and then here's coding and typography and space type generator. I mean, that happened spring of 2018. You know, I brought that out of After Effects, brought it out of Cinema 4D and put it
how old are
into
you real quick?
processing. I'm 36. Yes, I'm
36.
36.
Okay. Still
Let me
spring
inspect.
chicken. Okay. So you've been doing this for a while is the picture I want to paint. And then 2018, you were like,
Yeah.
aha, a
Yeah.
moment of enlightenment.
Yeah. Yeah. I think how long have I
And it
been
was
doing After
purposeful
Effects
play.
before that?
You didn't go into it and be like, I need to get big clients out of this. Like,
Yeah.
it's the point I want to make with people. Like, you didn't go into this stressing about how can I monetize my love for motion. This was just a curiosity and an itch you scratched. And I think that is like the huge component I notice in so many of my guests is they don't go into this like, this has to be successful. Here is the desired outcome. I want this to become. It was like, no, this was just like purposeful play, a personal project that like you nurtured, you nerded out over, poured some love and attention into it, shared it with other people, and it just evolved organically. And I think that's, to me, that's like the formula of things and giving it time, not rushing it, not forcing it.
Yeah, I mean that's what it was. You know, like I mentioned, like I'm very informed by my tools. You know, like once I found gradients, I was like, okay, everything's a gradient now. You know, like so I'm very informed by like what was possible with the tools. And you know, like when I was doing this stuff in After Effects, it was like so slow, and so I took it out of that and put it into code. And then like I could take these same forms I'd been making in After Effects, create them like at lightning speed and manipulate them in real time in processing. And so like, you know, removing some of the barriers of the tools there and allowing myself to like iterate and explore and then just come up with like series after series of what ifs, you know, like what if this, what if there's a wave here? What if this was variable? Like for me, that's like the thing that exploded it open. And yeah, like if this like kind of came out and nobody, you know, responded, yeah, I would still be kind of asking these questions, doing these experiments.
There it is. You'd still be doing it, even if it didn't pop off, man. Like, so my question to someone else is like, what are you doing right now that's forced because you think it's a path that you think you need to take because someone else took this versus what's the path you would do if money wasn't an option, you were fine, there's no such thing as social media, what would you be doing anyway? And for me, I'd still be having conversations and I'd still be drawing.
Yeah.
No, that's what I would be doing. Even if there was no platform, if there was no podcasts, there was no Instagram, like this is what I'd be doing. You'd still be just getting super curious and experimenting.
Yeah, I think it can be overwhelming to look at the feeds, right? And then like to look at all these other things, see what everybody else's path. I mean that's a nice way to say it, everybody else's path, because I think early on when I was doing illustration, and I still love that stuff and I still, you know, can do damage with vectors and that's still really rewarding for me. But you know, like that is other people's paths, you know, like my path now, one of my paths, I guess, is this motion stuff. And that's super exciting. And there's so many like other worlds to explore here. You know, I've got like a Google Keep list of like all these what ifs, you know, that dawn on me at night. More investigations.
Collect the ideas, at least, instead of like letting them pass.
Yeah.
Which I think a lot of people do
a little too quickly. Yeah. 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 I mean, and thorough investigation is something else that's like really exciting to me. You know, variation on variation on variation is something that, you know, what ifs on what ifs on what ifs is kind of like how I got to this point.
So what if editorial work went away? What would be like the next thing with this media type that excites you that you would love to chase?
Yeah.
How about that for what if?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I have been working with corporate clients that like want to automate some sort of motion or create tools that then they can hand off to clients. And so I've been doing a few of those, and those are like really challenging, especially when it comes to like what I can deliver versus expectations and kind of the conversation back and forth on that. Because, you know, this started as like a learning opportunity for myself, and that's what kind of keeps me going. But, you know, at some point it becomes, you need to, you know, quit learning and start executing and like start like learning in a direction in which you can accomplish, you know, what clients come to you for. So yeah, I've been making generators for clients. And so that's like, maybe I work with them on like what the form is and then help develop the coding for the tools and help like, you know, explore with them and stuff. And so, yeah, if editorial went away, I mean, it'd be a bummer. I don't say yes to every editorial.
What if client work went away?
Yeah, what if client work went away?
What would you do? I know like NFT space, we briefly talked about, it has its own things it's working on, and I'm getting more
Hmm.
educated in the space so I can provide a new lane for students to pursue. But like, would be an exciting thing for you to pursue from a personal play standpoint? I want to see where
I
your
mean,
brain's going there.
yeah. I mean, I'm still playing with these tools, like for me, I love making the tools and seeing how that informs the forms I'm creating. I think, if client work went away, I would, spend more time on space type generator. There's so many like to-dos, like you open up the cylinder version and like that thing kind of makes me shudder sometimes. Like, like the glyphs are not there. It's made with this lo-fi mono. It runs like garbage if you have over 5 lines, if you type too much in it. So yeah, I mean, I would actually love that. I think I need a sabbatical from my sabbatical. Maybe I could spend a whole year just like fine tuning space type generator. Because yeah, there's some exciting things. I'm all like every day I get some inquiry about how to save it out, and there's like no real save function.
Like how could someone else, like I was looking for like an export that
Yeah,
you're not
you and
pizza and
everybody else.
post turds little thing I
Yeah.
was doing. I was like, how can I export this and upload it myself and use hashtag space type generator for a feature or something like that, where you can just start featuring everyone
Yeah.
else's work. I don't know. Build a community
Yeah.
around it.
I search like when you type space type generator into Google, like the first suggestion after is how to save. I feel so bad about, like, because everybody wants to know that. And like, I totally understand that. The ability for JavaScript to like kind of save out these motion pieces is just like a constant
people to
struggle
make
with
their
me.
own
Yeah.
generated space types for themselves. Like that'd be sick.
Yeah. I would love it to like run better. I'd love the export option to be there. I'd love to, oh man, I would love to explore like VR, AR space, like that has always been super appealing to me. And like I think I'm in a space where like, given a month of like focusing on something like that, I think I could, I've got my Oculus Quest sitting here taunting me every day. So yeah, I'd love to explore that space as well. And
Okay.
I mean, there's something great like 3D soft, like cinema and Blender. Oh, I'm in love with Blender. I think Blender is so exciting. And I know you can like interact with that like on a coding level, and that would be exciting. Scotty, you got me like rolling now. Like,
Dude,
I
I feel like we're just
want to do it.
brainstorming here, but being recorded as a conversation. Like when do you bring your illustration work then into this world of motion and then wrap type around it too? Like, oh my God. So many cool things.
I mean, I was doing those walkers. Oh man, that was something I would love to revisit. I did these walkers like maybe a couple months ago, and that's what it was. It was like exploring
I think I know what
space
you're
type
talking
generator
about.
tech with some of like the motion effects that I did a long time, not a long time ago, but previously. Yeah, below
Like
the
these?
badges. Yeah, those walkers. Yeah. Like that is not far away from like me sharing with people. I just need to like sit down and like do work that is not quite as exciting as being an explorer. But yeah, those like you could generate.
That's
But like even
nuts.
that, there's so many like possibilities here in terms of like what texture, what body part applies to where, how much control do you give the user? I don't know. I don't know how to do it. I don't know what to focus on.
It's like I'm big in the world of like, how can we do something familiar in an unfamiliar way? And
Yeah,
that's like the
this,
formula. I feel like
yeah.
the almighty holy grail formula that I think helps people crush it in terms of growing an audience, getting featured, landing client work, is because you just do something familiar in an unfamiliar way. And then you pour your secret sauce, which is like yourself into your work, your unique thumbprint, your interests, your passions, your values, beliefs. It's so amazing and trippy. Like, yes, dude.
Yeah,
So
that's what some of
nuts.
these recent things are, is like investigating design tropes, that either I'm like kind of sick of or I'm kind of like elitist about, like badges, like I started exploring those space type generator badges because I was like kind of tired of seeing badges. But then like I like started making a generator through the lens of a badge. And then it became like so exciting to me. And it's like these layers and incorporating motion graphics and images and GIFs into here. And so now it's like incredibly exciting. And so that's the most recent one that's been launched. And unfortunately, the save function, the record function, which I did have working for all of like 3 days, I don't know, Chrome did some updates and now it's broken. So I need to fix that. So many things to fix. But yeah, you're mentioning like, through my own lens, like that's what some of those walkers are. That's what like WordArt Plus, which is this layout program, is. Like those are all like me trying to think like looking at things I've worked with in the past, Beziers, motion graphics, and walk cycles, and then trying to like reinterpret them through coding.
It's nuts.
And then sharing that, like WordArt Plus is like, that's also, there is a version online somewhere for Micah students, but like that's something that like, I'm so excited for people to play with. And I shared it with some other designers, some people I know, and what they came back with was like incredible. It's like stuff I wouldn't have thought about doing ever.
Yeah, that's so dope. I love this stuff. So good.
Thanks.
So wild. Okay. I think an important thing I also want to touch on, balancing a day job. Because do I remember correctly? Married with kiddos potentially, or?
Yeah, 3 of them. 3 kids.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was about to say 3 marriages. Wow. No, 3 kids, a day job, personal projects, as well as client work. What is your best advice in terms of like, hey, this is the top priority for a season? How do I carve out time to play?
Yeah.
I know you've taken sabbaticals at day job, but you've also like built a lot of this outside of day job while also being a dad. Like to me, me being a dad and a family man is like number 1 in my life priority. Then personal health and wellness, number 2, self-care. And then it's the business, and then it's play and drawing these days gets pushed down to the bottom.
Yeah.
How do you approach each day knowing what you're going to work on?
Yeah. I mean, that's
people
like
suck at time management and project management.
Yeah, even over the past couple of days, or weeks, this has become like a real huge point of contention with me. Like kids that are young, as you've experienced, like they like their needs and demands and like how they behave, how much attention they need change so dramatically, so quickly. I've got a 2, a 4, and a 6.
Okay.
And so just this week, my 6 is at first grade and my 4 is at pre-K. And then we do have a nanny that comes. And so like, investing in childcare has like been a tough pill to swallow, but like you need to, like if I want to like act like I have an 8 to 5, that is my play, my client work, my day job when I teach, like, yeah, you need to invest in things that save you time.
So how do you structure a day then? Do you make time for all 3 in a day? Or is one like, is it like heavy Monday through Wednesday is the day job?
Yeah.
This is that day. And then Friday is my play day.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. When I teach, like those are 1 day a week. Well, when I'm doing full time, I'm just going back one class in the fall, but that is usually 2 days a week is like I'm teaching. That's what I'm doing. But, that's kind of great because then like between classes and sometimes during classes, like I can work or do experiments, alongside the students, which is really exciting. So I get some play in there, I guess. And then it just kind of depends on like the current needs. I've been trying to take social media, Instagram kind of more seriously and do like 2 to 3 posts a day. I used to try and do every other day, but like it just didn't work, like it was at night killing myself trying to come up with some sort of thing to document. So I try and do like 2 a week. And sometimes, like if New York Times, sends me an email and I've got one of those, like that's client work, that's play, that's content, like that's like a triple hitter. Yeah. And luckily more and more, like my pile of like what is client work is like quickly becoming my work that I want to do, the work that is play to me, that I'm excited about doing. I've got some like pieces I need to develop for a show, for a sabbatical show and for a show in Taiwan, and so like that's code that like I'm super excited to dive into and create and like kind of experiment with what that'll look like in an installation space. So like that's play. So more and more some of these areas are like kind of dissolving,
overlapping
like
crazy,
yeah.
Like where people strive to go, but you've been in the game for a minute, dealt with, I'm assuming, hard times, lots of moments of questioning and self-doubt. Like I'm an illustrator, but why do I not feel like I need to take this path, or I can do branding design like everybody else is branding, so there's lots of moment of questioning. And it sounds like you just bet big on yourself. I like how I say experimenting. You're like, I like to investigate what
Yeah.
piques my curiosity.
Yeah, I think whenever I have a moment of slowdown, there's so many things I want to learn and experiment with that like I kind of feel like I don't have any sort of like creative block. And that's, I feel fortunate that that's the way it is. But, every time I feel a moment of slowdown in terms of like what space type generator I'm developing, what motion I'm experimenting with, like there's always a space to learn. Whether, like my HTML CSS stuff has been like really abysmal. So like the last space type generator, I like really investigated HTML, CSS, and like played that as like kind of just as important a part as the JavaScript I was working with. And so like that became a moment of learning, being able to create content, being able to create a new space type generator for people to play with. So that became, like just as much of an exciting area as everything else.
No, I love it, man. Let's pivot to some rapid fire questions and we'll end this up. What does your mug say?
Oh, this is a wall drug. Shout out to South Dakota.
Wall drug. All right, cool.
Yeah.
I got some Death Wish Coffee Company today. Shout out to
Nice.
Canadian Pottery.
Cheers.
Cheers, man. If you were on death row, what would your last slice of pizza be?
Have to be a meat lover's pizza, and like I like the pizza where it's, the pizza and then the meat is like an inch thick on the top of everything from pepperoni to ground beef to Canadian bacon to yeah.
Anywhere specific?
Anywhere specific. There was a place in South Dakota growing up where we would go after we were done on the river boating in Wagner, South Dakota. I think it closed. I think it's called Mad Joe's. They had like this amazing pizza with just so much meat lovers on top. It was amazing. That's what my last slice would be.
If you were reincarnated, what would your new career path be outside of the realms of creativity, art, coding, etc.?
Yeah, I always thought I'd end up in the medical field. My parents are in the medical field, and I always joked that I would teach at a university so I could take medical classes at a discount and then become a medical person. And I don't know what that is. I don't know if that's a doctor or a nurse or whatever, but I probably would have ended up in the medical field, which I still like have so much respect for.
Okay. Do you believe in any type of alien life forms, paranormal existing outside of our current universe that we know, or the space that we operate within?
Yeah. Okay. So paranormal, no, I don't believe that exists.
So no to like ghosts.
No ghosts. But the, like a universal consciousness, I think there's something there. But in terms of like apparitions or ghosts, no. The alien thing, I think they do exist. I don't think we'll ever meet them. Like when you look at like the time scale that we've existed on Earth, it's like microscopic. And then if you extrapolate that to like a cosmic level, it's even more microscopic. So like the chances of our existence lining up with aliens' existence, and also with them with the ability to space travel and interact with us, it's like, the possibilities are super small, which is a bummer. So yes to extraterrestrials, but no, I don't think we'll meet them.
Okay. That's the most in-depth answer someone's given me yet. So I will accept.
I've been thinking about it for years. And even if we do interact with them, like how, like we're assuming they'll talk to us.
Fascinated by aliens, but god damn, if like my biggest fear is that scene from Independence Day, like the original one with like that ship just coming over. Oh my God, that's what I'm terrified of. Like, I hope they're just nice. They're nice and kick it and they want to draw with us and do space type generator. Last quick one. If you were stranded on an island, what are 3 things you have to refrain from dying for boredom?
Oh man. Well, I mean, I'm kind of tethered to the internet because of this coding thing. So I would need an internet connection. I would bring my iPad with a pencil so I can keep doing some illustration. What's a third thing? I mean, can my family be a third thing? A unit? No. Okay.
I'm making the rules on this one.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, then maybe like a Kindle just like loaded with books, sci-fi books.
That's fair. And somewhere in there, you have some type of solar charger, I'm assuming.
Oh yeah, of course.
All right. Where can people go to follow you online and support you, man?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Kiel.D.M. I've got a website, KielM.com. And I mean, I have a Behance, but it's been a while. And I'm gonna, extrapolate. I'm gonna add some more outputs somewhere.
I'll link it all up in the show notes. But Keel, it was great to finally get a chance to connect and share your story and nerd out over some of this stuff that I've just been like drooling over for a while. Really appreciate your time and your presence today, and thanks for dropping all this gold.
Great. Yeah, no, thank you so much, Scotty. This was a blast.
All right. Well, let's stay in touch. Later, homie. Thanks again for listening. It'd be awesome if you took the time to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button, and let the comment below so we can connect. Again, if you want to catch a shout out as a future listener of the week, make sure you subscribe to the show in iTunes and give it a rating and review.